Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining me every evening to follow what's happening in India and abroad. And thank you for sending me your useful comments and suggestions. If you believe in this channel, do share it with your friends and spread the message. Our only mission is to bring you the truth and both sides of the story. Thank you for your support. Today we have a lot of interesting and varied news. The former J&K Governor Karan Singh on Friday said, Kashmir, regarding Jammu and Kashmir, statehood must be restored before holding assembly polls. Describing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with top political leaders from Jammu and Kashmir as a very positive step, veteran Congress leader and former J&K Governor Karan Singh on Friday said statehood must be restored before holding assembly polls there, and asserted that such a move would go a long way in helping to heal the wounds of the people. And also in this context, 15 retired IPS officers hailed PM's vision for J&K and penned down a letter to support of Jammu and Kashmir talks. In the case of Nyaay, which is a movie purportedly based on Sushant Singh Rajput's life, the High Court, Delhi High Court, seeks more information. The Delhi High Court sought to know whether the movie Nyaay, the Justice, which is purportedly based on the life of late Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput, has been released as scheduled on June 11th, after both the director of the film and the actor's father gave contradictory statements on the aspect. The High Court was hearing an appeal filed by Rajput's father, Krishna Kishore Singh, challenging a single judge's order refusing to stay the release of the movie or to restrain anyone from using his son's name or likeness in movies. A vacation bench of Justices Anup Jairam Bhambani and Jasmeet Singh raised a preliminary query whether the film has been released on OTT platform as was scheduled on June 11th. A lot depends on whether the movie has been released or not. If it has been released, the matter can wait for the roster bench. If it has not been released, the court may be inclined to hear it now, during vacations, it said. The bench asked if the movie had already been released, can it now reverse it and can the bell be unrung? Senior advocate Jayant Mehta, representing Rajput's father, said it has not been released yet. However, senior advocate Chandan Lal for the film director said his instructions are to the contrary. To this, senior advocate Harish Salve, also representing Rajput's father, suggested that this fact be verified before proceeding further with the matter. The bench said, let the fact be verified, to verify the aspect list on June 25th. The single judge had on June 10th refused to stay the release of several movies, including Nyaay the Justice, saying these films are neither portrayed as biopic nor factual narration of what transpired in his life. Posthumous privacy right is not permissible, it had said in its interim order on a plea by Rajput's father to restrain such films. During the hearing, Mehta submitted that the difficulty was not only the release of the movie, but also the manner in which the order was passed by a single judge. He said the movie is going to infringe upon the right to privacy and the right to a fair trial, and with each passing day, it is causing damage to the reputation of the actor. The court also asked the counsel for the plaintiff to serve a copy of the appeal to the advocate for the film director, who claimed they have not received it. The single judge had earlier said it found merit in the submissions of the producer and director that if the information of events which have occurred is already in the public domain, one cannot plead any violation of the rights to privacy on a movie inspired from such events. Some of the upcoming or proposed movie projects based on his son's life are Nyaay the Justice, Suicide or Murder, A Star Was Lost, Shashank, and an unnamed crowd-funded film. The court had directed the filmmakers to render complete accounts of the revenue earned from the films. If any case of damages is made out in the future, and listed the suit for completion of pleading before the joint registrar. It has said the producers and the directors claim the films to be fictional rendition of true events surrounding the lives of film TV personalities, including Rajput, who was reportedly found dead at his home in Mumbai. The investigation is still on. The court said it does not find merit in the plaintiff's contention to restraint on the strength of his right to fair trial relating to the unnatural death of his son, saying no foundation is set up to demonstrate how the films would impair the trial. It had termed as misconceived plaintiff's plea that the content of the film is defamatory and will damage his and his son's reputation. The suit has claimed that in case a movie, web series, or book or any other content of similar nature is allowed to be published or broadcasted, it would affect the right of the victim and deceased for a fair and free trial, as it may cause prejudice to them. It has also contended that Rajput, being a well known celebrity, any misuse of his name, image, caricature, style of delivery, delivering dialogues also amounts to infringement of the personality, right vested with the plaintiff, besides amounting to acts of passing off. Meanwhile, former Maharashtra Minister Anil Deshmukh skips Enforcement Directorate summons in the money laundering case. Maharashtra's former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh skipped the summons by the Enforcement Directorate on Saturday for questioning in a money laundering case. His lawyer, Jayavant Patel, who visited the ED office, said, "We have given the letter to ED and asked them to furnish documents based on which we are to be questioned, as we don't have any knowledge about the line of investigation. So we were unable to appear for questioning. Now ED has to take a call on it." And the ED also raided former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh's residence after establishing a rupees 4 crore extortion trail and arrest 2 aides. All this means more trouble for Anil Deshmukh. According to the reports, the 2 aides, Sanjeev Palande, Deshmukh's personnel secretary, and personal assistant, Kundan Chinde, were arrested under provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act (PMLA) after about 9 hours of intense questioning. The ED said that the two men were arrested as they failed to cooperate with the investigative agency in the ongoing probe against Anil Deshmukh in the money laundering case. The ED officials are expected to produce the 2 aides at a special PMLA court in Mumbai later in the day to seek their custody for custodial interrogation. The arrest came after the Central Probe Agency conducted raids at Anil Deshmukh's residence in Nagpur and Mumbai on Friday. The raids were conducted at 5 places, according to the ED. Reportedly, the officers had raided the offices of Deshmukh, one in Mumbai and another in Nagpur. Around 8 ED officials reached Deshmukh's residence at 7:30 p.m. on Friday, along with a team of CRP force personnel, and began the search. The ED officials barred anyone from entering or exiting the residence as they continued their search. The ED had raided the residence of Anil Deshmukh after establishing a money trail of rupees 4 crores, allegedly paid by about 10 bar owners in Mumbai to the then Home Minister Deshmukh over 3 months. Based on the new evidence, the ED had carried out searches at these locations, including Deshmukh's residence and the premises of the personal assistant Kundan Chinde and personal secretary Sanjeev Palande. Earlier on May 11th, the ED had registered a case of money laundering against the former Home Minister of Maharashtra, Anil Deshmukh. Anil Deshmukh resigned as Maharashtra Home Minister in April after the Bombay High Court ordered a CBI probe into rupees 100 crores bribery allegations leveled by former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh against the NCP leader. Meanwhile, in the Janhvi Kukreja case, her friend and accused number 2, Diya Padalkar, gets bail, and the court rejects Jogdankar's application. The police have claimed that an argument ensued between Janhvi Kukreja and the accused over their proximity at the New Year's Eve party, leading to a violent scuffle on the staircase where she was murdered. Over 6 months since Diya Padalkar, who is 19, was arrested for the alleged murder of a childhood friend at a New Year's Eve party in Khar, a sessions court granted her bail on Friday. Diya Padalkar was arrested along with Sri Jagdankar, who is 22, for the murder of their common friend Janhvi Kukreja, who was 19. The court rejected Sri Jagdankar's bail application. Diya Padalkar and Jagdankar had filed for bail again after the Mumbai police filed a charge sheet against them in March. On New Year's Eve, Janhvi Kukreja and the 2 accused had attended a party along with others on the terrace of a building in Khar. This was at a friend's house, a friend called Yash. The police have claimed that an argument ensued between Kukreja and the accused over their proximity at the party, leading to a violent scuffle on the staircase, where she was murdered. Diya Padalkar, in her bail plea filed through the lawyer Ashok Mishra, has said that there was no evidence to show that she was involved in the crime. She had added that as per the chronology of events mentioned in the charge sheet, she was on the terrace or sleeping in the party organizer's room at the alleged time of the incident. Some submissions made on Diya Padalkar's behalf also asked the court to consider her young age, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the resulting possible delay in the commencement of the trial. Additional Sessions Judge M.M. Umar allowed the plea with directions that Diya Padalkar should not tamper with evidence or influence prosecution witnesses. She was also asked to visit Khar Police Station once a month till the trial culminates and not to leave the city. An application filed on behalf of Janvi Kukreja's mother seeking a stay on the order was rejected. Considering the facts and circumstances of the case, so also considering that the prosecution case against the applicant, Diya Padalkar, is based on the circumstantial evidence, if it is not desirable to stay the bail order, the court said. Sri Jogdankar's bail plea had sought his release on various grounds, including that there are no eyewitnesses to the alleged incident. Its plea also said that he had himself sustained injuries due to a grievous assault while saving Janvi Kukreja from assailants. Special Public Prosecutor Pradeep Gharat opposed the plea, stating that Sri Jogdankar's defense was an afterthought and that he had not been able to name or identify the assailants. He added that the circumstantial and forensic evidence showed Janvi Kukreja's bloodstains on Jogdankar's shirt and the bedsheet on which Padalkar lay following the incident. Meanwhile, this is also quite big, this news. Designers Manish Malhotra, Sabyasachi, Ritu Kumar have been summoned by the ED in a money laundering probe involving Punjab politician Sukhpal Singh Kalra. The fashion designers have been summoned for questioning in a money laundering probe involving Punjab politician Sukhpal Singh Kalra. Punjab Congress MLA, who was earlier with AAP and recently rejoined the Congress, is also under probe for alleged drug smuggling and a fake passport racket. Sources said the three top designers have been asked to appear before the ED this week to answer questions regarding some financial transactions. We have information that Kalra paid money to the tune of several lakhs to the three designers in cash in 2018 and 19, an ED official said. Asked about the notices to the designers, Kalra, former leader of the opposition in the Punjab Assembly, told media, "I'm not the person to answer this. You either ask the ED or the designers. I had purchased wedding dresses like lehengas worth rupees 3 to 4 lakhs, 2-3 items. How big a case of money laundering is this? It was a very meager purchase for the wedding of my daughter." In 2016, Kalra's daughter Simar had got married to Inderveer Singh Johar, the grandson of the late Darbara Singh, former Chief Minister of Punjab. While the staff of Sabyasachi and Ritu Kumar said they were aware of the matter and deciding their course of action, Manish Malhotra could not be contacted. In March, the ED had raided 12 locations across Punjab, Chandigarh, and Delhi, including the premises of Inderveer Johar. Among other premises raided were those linked to convicts in a 2015 Fazilka drug smuggling case, in connection with which Kalra is facing money laundering allegations. The raids were also linked to a fake passport racket probe for which the Delhi police had registered an FIR. Asked about the notices to the designer, the former leader of opposition in the Punjab Assembly told media, "I'm not a person to answer this. You either ask the ED or the designers." Police had told a court that Kalra had been in touch with Gurdev Singh, one of those convicted, via the mobile phone of his PSO, Joga Singh, and that the two had spoken 65 times between February 27, 2015 and March 8 that year, the day before Singh's arrest. Kalra had got relief from the Supreme Court against the lower court's summons. In the fake passport racket, one person was arrested in January. The ED official said Kalra was in touch with the people who were a part of this racket as well. The wrongful framing of Dr. Nambi Narayan case, the CBI probing 1994 espionage case has accused a former intelligence officer who had interrogated Mariam Rashida, Maldivian woman, PS Jayaprakash 71, retired Deputy Central Intelligence Officer, has been made an accused in the case. He moved the High Court on Wednesday seeking anticipatory bail. The CBI registered the new FIR implicating former investigating officers of the Kerala Police and former officers of Intelligence Bureau who had assisted the police in the probe. So sources said the CBI New Delhi team will reach Trivandrum soon to collect the evidence. The CBI has registered the FIR based on the Supreme Court order issued after considering a report from a three-member panel about the role of the top officers in allegedly implicating Nambidharayan, who was later acquitted and awarded rupees 50 lakhs compensation by the Supreme Court. In a mass conversion racket, non-Muslim girls were targeted from rural areas. Earlier this week, the UP ATS busted a massive ISI-funded conversion racket after it arrested Maulana Muhammad Umar Gautam and his accomplice Mufti Qazi Jahangir from Delhi for allegedly forcing over 1,000 people to adopt Islam. The duo, who ran an organization named Islamic Dawa Center, IDC, along with other associates, were charged for mass conversion of people into Islam through inducements such as marriage, job, money, and mental pressure. The two accused, who are in a 7-day custody remand from Wednesday, are being interrogated by the ATS regarding their conversion programs and their links with Pakistan's ISI, among other things. Now, according to a media report, the ATS has confirmed that during the interrogation, the duo had disclosed yet another modus operandi of their mass conversion racket. They have revealed that they targeted girls in the rural areas as they were easier to prey on. The ATS recovered a list with names of 31 non-Muslim girls who fell into their conversion trap, and most of these girls belong to the rural areas. On questioning, the accused reportedly told the ATS officials that it was easier to brainwash girls living in villages into embracing Islam. They are mostly uneducated and belong to less privileged families, so it becomes easier to lure them with jobs and financial aids, which was what Umar Gautam exactly did to lure his target into embracing Islam. Amidst all these startling revelations made in the case, it was revealed how the entire religious conversion racket was funded by some foreign organizations, Pakistan's ISI, and other Arab countries. In fact, many victims' families have come forward to narrate how they fell prey to this mass religious conversion racket. Father of a victim named Manu Yadav had alleged that he received a threat call on his son's mobile number from Pakistan, asking him not to cause hindrance in the conversion of his son. Besides, a lady teacher named Kalpana Singh from Nurul Huda English Medium in Fatehpur, Uttar Pradesh, has revealed how Umar Gautam had visited the school she taught in with 20-25 other Maulanas in the year 2020 to brainwash them to adopt Islam by assuring financial security. She had also confirmed how the school under Umar Gautam's influence began teaching toddlers Urdu and Arabic in class. In Canada, a shocking news came to the front. Hundreds or more unmarked graves were found at former residential school in Canada. An indigenous group said the remains of as many as 751 people, mainly children, had been found in unmarked graves on the site of a former boarding school in Saskatchewan. For decades, the indigenous children were taken from their families, sometimes by force, and housed in crowded, church-run boarding schools where they were abused and prohibited from speaking their languages. Thousands vanished altogether. Now a new discovery offers chilling evidence that many of the missing children may have died at these schools. The remains of as many as 751 people, mainly indigenous children, were found at the site of a former school in the province of Saskatchewan, an indigenous group said on Thursday. It's unclear how the children died at the schools, which were buffeted by disease outbreaks a century ago, and where children face sexual, physical, and emotional abuse and violence. Some former students of the schools have described the bodies of infants born to girls impregnated by priests and monks being incinerated. The burial site, the largest one to date, was uncovered only weeks after the remains of 215 children were found in unmarked graves on the grounds of another former church-run school for indigenous schools in British Columbia. The discoveries have jolted the nation, grappling with generations of widespread and systematic abuse of indigenous people, many of whom are survivors of the boarding schools. For decades, they suggested through their oral histories that thousands of children disappeared from schools, but they were often met with skepticism. The revelations of the two unmarked grave sites are another searing reminder of this traumatic period in history. This was a crime against humanity, an assault on a First Nation people, said Chief Bobby Cameron of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations, the provincial federation of indigenous groups. The only crime we ever committed as children was being born indigenous. The burial site also puts new pressure on the current government of Justin Trudeau, Canada's Prime Minister, which even today relies on a set of laws that govern the lives of indigenous people that date back to the 19th century. Meanwhile, let me tell you about a shocking case in Kerala, in Kollam. The preliminary postmortem of a woman who is said to have committed suicide shows that the cause of her death at her husband's house, where she had suffered torture over dowry, was hanging. The girl we are talking about is Vismaya, a very young girl of around 23 or 24 years. Kollam Rural SP KB Ravi on Tuesday said the doctors conveyed this to the investigating officers and the team was waiting for a detailed post-mortem report. The parents of the girl, Vismaya, alleged that she was murdered by husband Kiran Kumar. It is too early to conclude whether she was hanged by someone or committed suicide. That can be decided after getting the detailed post-mortem and forensic report, said Ravi. The police team completed the preliminary interrogation of Kiran Kumar, the husband, who had surrendered at the Suranadu police station on Monday night. During the interrogation, he confessed that he used to manhandle his wife, Vismaya. He said that he had beaten her earlier when the two got into fights. The pictures being circulated on social media are old ones, said Ravi. He said based on the version of Kiran Kumar, the police would carry out further inquiry and interrogate his relatives and friends. In the evening, Kiran Kumar was remanded to 14 days judicial custody by a local court. The FIR registered by the police has invoked provisions of dowry harassment and domestic violence. Following the arrest, the Motor Vehicles Department suspended Kiran Kumar from service. He was an assistant motor vehicle inspector attached to the MVD enforcement squad in Kollam. As the death triggered widespread public anger in the state and on social media, State Police Chief Loknath Behra appointed South Zone IG Harshita Ataluri to lead the investigation. Behra said strict legal action would be taken against the culprits without any prejudice. 23-year-old Vismaya was found dead under mysterious circumstances in her husband's home at Poruvadi in Suranad in the early hours of Monday. Vismaya's father and brother alleged that her husband Krishna Kumar murdered her. They said she had been subjected to torture over dowry by Kiran Kumar. WhatsApp chats and pictures later released by her relatives revealed the brutal torture faced by Vismaya. She was a final year BAMS student at the Mannam Memorial Cooperative Ayurveda Medical College. The couple got married on May 31st last year. Women and Child Welfare Minister Veena George, Kerala Women's Commission member Shahida Kamal, Congress leader Ramesh and DYFI State Secretary were among the persons who visited the parents. Doctors told us that my sister was brought to the hospital 2 hours after her death. None from Kiran Kumar's family informed us about her death. Instead, they told us that she was admitted in the private hospital in Chastamkota. Later, when I called the hospital to check on her condition, they informed me that she was brought dead there, said Vijit, Vismaya's brother. I'm thankful for the government's timely intervention in speeding up the probe and suspending Kiran Kumar from his service. I request the government, public and media that this should not be another hashtag or just a day's issue. We all should fight till the system changes. No other sister or daughter should suffer such a fate. Vismaya had informed her friend Ashwati in Chavara through WhatsApp about the frequent harassment she had to face. These messages and pictures are circulating in the media. There were injury marks on her neck and a cut mark on her wrist. These pieces of evidence show that it was a murder. Kiran Kumar had blocked my father's and my number on her phone, and she was allowed only to call my mother, and that too not frequently, said the brother. In the last call she made to me on Sunday afternoon, she asked for rupees 5,000 for paying her examination fee. When I said I didn't have that much amount at that time and told her to ask Kiran, She told me he won't give it, but would only abuse her. I told her that I would arrange some money and send it to her by Monday. I never imagined that I won't be able to talk to her anymore, said Sajida, Vismaya's mother. PM, the Chief Minister asked the cops to crack down on dowry issues. A very sad case, very similar to what many people, many women, have faced in Bombay. Many of the cases which we have narrated in our video sessions, just like as in Jia Khan's case. That's all the news for today. Let me just look at your comments as well, friends. Let's go. One second, friends. Good evening, Sanjay. Thank you for joining me. Welcome, Ritu. Har Har Mahadev. Good evening, Miniman. I saw your show. It was a good show. I somehow feel Jia's death is not just a love angle. It will be something big. Else, why is it pre-planned? No, not at all a love angle. This is something very, very different, as what Jia's mother said. As per Sushant's diary, money was involved in her killing. Can you bring Bharat Shah? Yes, we can look at it. Shubha, my humble request, sure. Ramata, yesterday's episode was really sad, and I feel bad for Rabia. As a woman, I saw so many red flags. If you're in a relationship where the man wants total control, that is a red flag, yes. Ramata, yes, I believe it was pretty planned. Sad thing about this, they're training these kids to become criminals like them. KB, good evening. Welcome, SK. Kashvi, good evening. Welcome. Arisha, welcome. Good evening to you. Swati, good evening. Welcome, Nisha. Shali, good evening. Welcome, Dhruv. Hello, Madhvi. Shubha, when the case is still on, they should make a movie. This is what I also feel. I mean, unless you know the whole truth, how can you make a movie? It will make no sense. This is only to bias, people and bias, even the trial itself. Subha, feeling very sad to see Sushant's father having to go through all this at this age. Both Sushant's father and Jia's mother. Our hearts go out to them. Adisha, is this person related to Ritesh Deshmukh? Yes, yes. I think his uncle. Nima, good evening. Jicha, good evening. Jisha Adaj, previously one designer was accused of rape by so many girls. Ma'am, please watch Bakadat and Kangana interview in which Kangana mentions about Manish Malhotra. Suddenly, Bakadat changed the subject. Yes, they are all friends. Remember. Lalita, good evening, Lalita. Sanjay, I thought MM is gay. I also thought the same. Welcome, Ushma. Arisha, the religion is not the problem. It's the people who commit crimes in the name of Islam. Same with Hinduism. See, when the messages are coming from Pakistan, this is a crime. And this is a planned effort, Arisha. So this has to be curbed at all costs. Converting ignorant girls and offering them money is not the thing. Shivani, hats off to you for your commitment to truth. Thank you, Shivani. Megha, in Kerala, dowry has become a mandatory fashion statement involved with minimum 1 kilo gold all over the bride's attire, acres of land, luxury car. I know for a fact because my parents are from Kerala. See, it also depends on, educated people, Arisha. See, if you refuse to give dowry, they can't do a thing. Hats off to you for your commitment. Thank you, Shivani. And Megha, see, one thing I would say is parents must strictly say no to dowry. And don't accept dowry or don't give up dowry. That is the only way. Papia, good evening, Papia. Yes. Sanjay, good night. Have a good weekend. Wish you a lovely weekend, Sanjay. And thank you always for joining me. KB, love your way of conducting sessions. Any news of Hyderabad wedding of Pitan? There was news on 24th June that four sureties were needed, which he's having a problem arranging. Do you have any updates? No, KB. Are others safe in Bollywood? I don't think. Good evening, Madhavi. Good evening, Ayman. Movies made prior to justice being delivered is only to deviate people's mind. Yes, Sushila. Hey, I'm waiting for interaction reply to many compliments on my many shows. I did not get you, Noshir. I feel somebody should do an expose sting on Manish Malhotra. His role is suspicious in Sri Devi, Jia SSR case, plus Kangana's harassment. Yes, as told to us by Deepthi as well. Shining Star, even if you don't give dowry, they harass girl after marriage for dowry. Then the girl should return and do her studies and work. That would be the best thing. The parents have to support the daughter. Seema, still no justice for Jia Khan. So sad, mother is crying. Yes. Devnushi, with all the evidence about the Vasuli case, will any prominent person ever be arrested? I think the Anil Deshmukh is going to be arrested, Devnushi. You're doing a great job, Inaji. Thanks, Phil. I think that's about all because it's a weekend. Everybody's very relaxed. Please enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you on Monday. One more from Phil. Can you bring Fogart to our show recently as revealed? Yes, sure. We will call him. Thank you, Phil. Good night.